Hello and welcome to another brief demonstration of new features coming up in the Papyrus-RT project. Today we'll have a look at connector inheritance in capsule structure diagrams. This subject is slightly complicated by the structure of connectors that have these connector ends that we don't actually see in diagrams, but that link the connector to ports and to ports on parts, which can get a little interesting. So why don't we start as usual by creating a generalization relationship to have capsule 2 inherit from capsule 1. There we are. So now we see for the first time an inherited connector washed out in gray as we would expect. So we can look at some of the details of it. So it inherits the name and other attributes. If we look in the Explorer, it also inherits connector ends with their multiplicities from the capsule 1 connector. Now, as usual, the visualization also is inherited, so we can add some endpoints, move them around, and see the effect in the inheriting diagram. We can, of course, undo these changes as we please. That's all good. Now, in the sub-capsule diagram, we might want to customize the layout also, in which case it becomes disconnected from the inherited diagram's layout of that connector. And we can undo to the point where, once again, it is no longer customized in the subcapsule diagram, and it tracks the parent diagram again. Now, of course, also, as before, we can move the ports that are connected to it around. That doesn't really mean anything to the connector because its bend points are relative to where the ends are anyways. So that's not really anything new. Oops, yeah. Now, another thing we can do to an inherited connector, of course, is to exclude it from the specializing capsule. And there we see it disappears from view, and in the Explorer it gets the little red X annotation on it that we're accustomed to. And we can see in the stereotype that the root fragment now is null. That indicates that it is excluded. So we can reinstate the thing by re-inheriting it, and voila, there it appears in the diagram again, as we would expect, and we see once again that it is marked with the little decoration that it is inherited. Now this is a case where the connector is still purely inherited. We can get a little more fancy and redefine this connector. So let's say take an end and change its replication factor. There's a bit of a glitch in the properties view. And now we see that the annotation on the connector in the Explorer changes to show that it is redefined. That, of course, does not imply redefinition of the visualization, only the semantics of the connector, as you can see. So we can undo that. And we can undo the change that caused the thing to be redefined. And then we see that once again, the inheritance state of this thing is purely inherited. It is no longer redefined in the specializing capsule. So there you have it, a brief look at connector inheritance in capsule structure diagrams. Thank you.